All right. First things first, in your notebook, let's make a section that says 322 loads if you don't have that already. Your homework was just to get some background knowledge about how loads are transferred from the roof of a building all the way down to the bottom. From that background knowledge, you should already know a little bit about dead loads, live loads, and girders, beams, and columns. Those are the big take-home points. Jesse, come grab another one. So what I want you guys to look at as we're still settling in, that on that first page that I gave you, the top right picture, you've all seen a commercial building in some form of construction. There's one going up right across the street from Weber State right now, and if you're driving down Harrison, you can see that one. My point is, it's a really big deal to calculate what types of I-beams and roof deck and spacing in between them before you start building. Obviously, because it has to carry a huge load. Think about skyscrapers, multi-story skyscrapers. And even something as small as our commercial building to something really large, the same concepts still apply. All right, on 322, let's open a couple things. Go ahead and open underneath activity. It says 322A loads document. We're going to want that one. And we're going to want weights and materials. It says weights materials PDF. We're going to want that one. And that's probably good for now. So our first page is kind of an introduction and some pictures that we'll refer back to. We can put that one aside for now. And let's go to your second page. That's the one that says established design loads, 322. Established design loads. Okay. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to start reading through. This is kind of your cheat sheet. I took that PowerPoint and a couple others and put everything together on these 3 pages. That's why I gave you that today. It's a lot easier than bouncing around to a couple of different documents, and we're actually going to have to do some of that anyway, but this helps quite a bit, and it's better than writing it all down. Okay, so the first thing says find design snow load. So notice this equation. Our load depends on a couple factors. So okay, we're going to build this commercial building. Great. We need to figure out what's happening in our area. It could be earthquakes. We could have a live roof, like a green roof, kind of like the one we're going to be putting in. So P sub S is design snow load. C sub S is roof slope, and we're going to just use 1 because R is a typical low slope roof. C sub E is exposure factor. It says we'll use 1 because we're assuming an urban or suburban area surrounded by other buildings, so the building is partially blocked by wind. But let's talk about that for a second. We're just going to use 1, but if it was in some area with a significant amount of wind load, we might bump that up to 1.1. Next one, thermal factor. We're going to use 1 because we're assuming the building is heated. It loses some heat through the roof. Heat is lost through the roof and helps melt snow, decreasing the load of your roof. So notice we're using 1 for all of these, except for the 0.7 is constant. That one stays. Then we have to, so now let's bounce over to,
Rachel Gibson, come to the office. Rachel, come to the office.
bounce over to that Word document, 322A, the first or second one I asked you to open. And I'm just going to walk through the lesson and your assignment. We're going to just kind of do it both at the same time. So skip down to where it says criteria. So this is a fictitious roof, a scenario that we're going to do some math on. And let's read through it. We have a low slope roof. It will be constructed of a steel roof deck, 5 inches of ridge insulation, and what's called a built-up roof, or BUR. The roof will support a mineral fiberboard suspended ceiling. The roof will support mechanical, electrical, and plumbing equipment. That's abbreviated MEP. We'll assume 10 pounds per square foot for all of that equipment. The building is located in an urban environment, surrounded by other buildings. So we have some criteria. Everybody finding the documents I'm referencing, we're good? All in the same spot? Okay. Now we go to calculate our snow load. So you guys are going to be cranking your neck a little bit. If you look up here, I'm going to kind of walk through this with you. I'll move this cart in a second. So where I would do this, I would, if you cut your paper, I would have, this page that I just referenced, and then right across from it, it would make a lot of sense, right across from it, start doing the math that we're about to use. So when you look back and refer to it, you can quickly see where you got these numbers from and what you were doing. That's how I would do it. So leave a space, think about where you're going to be taping that paper before you start writing. Okay. So 1, calculate snow load. Let's go ahead and write our equation. P sub S, and it's just like it appears in your notebook or on your handout. 0.7, C sub S, C sub E, C sub T, I sub S, which we'll get to in a second, and P sub G, which is snow load. 0.7. So I trailed off a little bit. I talked about some of those variables, the C sub S, the C sub E, the thermal factor, and I got sidetracked a little bit. So on your, there's another one we need to open. So if you back up to Canvas, Loads Quick Guide, it's actually the document that you have in your hand, but there's a link on there we're going to need to click. So open that one up too. So look where it says building type. I'll highlight that for you. I'm right here. Look where it says building type. It says determine what materials may or may not be used. So everybody click on building type. Click on that link. So let's take a second and read through here. Our commercial building, our Weber State Athletic Center, let's try and figure out what class, what type of building that's going to be. So 1, it says buildings and other structures that represent low hazard to human life in the event of a failure, including but not limited to agriculture, certain temporary facilities, minor storage facilities, and kind of. Let's look at 2. Buildings and other structures except those listed in 1, 3, and 4. Okay. You guys scan through 3, and I'll do the same. Anything that's jumping out? Go ahead and read class 4. I know this is the first time you're looking at anything like this, but if you had to take a guess as to what class we would put this building, what do you think?
3.
I think 3 too. There were a couple things that jumped out to me. Represent a substantial hazard to human life if it were to fail, that's true. And then I saw building and other structures containing adult education facilities such as colleges, universities, boom. We're gonna go for class 3. Okay? So, bounce back to your Google Doc. Okay, so now we know we're a class 3, and that gives us an importance factor of what? Look in your chart. 1.1. Okay. And then skip down and click on ground snow load. So boom, look at that. It spits you to the Ogden website, and you read through there. You can find the snow load for Ogden. Yep, ground snow load, 43 to 50 pounds per square foot. All this stuff is documented. It varies from city to city, varies from state to state. Okay? Okay, back to your Google Doc. All of that, go back up to the very top, was just to explain that equation at the very, very top. So our design load is dependent on the thermal factor, the importance factor that we went through, C sub B, P sub G, all that stuff. Does that make sense, what we're doing? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, so now let's crunch some numbers. So now you can look back over here. Now we're going to write in your notebook for a minute. Okay, so number 1, let's write, we're going to calculate our snow load. Here's that equation we've been referencing. Let's write down the blank equation first, no numbers other than the constant. Make that a little bigger for you. Then right below it, we can start filling stuff in. So what's C sub S stand for? I forgot. Roof slope, okay. We said it's a traditional low slope roof, that's why I got a 1. Next one is C sub E, what's that one stand for? Exposure factor. We're also going to use a 1 for that. C sub T is thermal, 1 for that. And then we stuck this 1.1 in there because we said it was a class 3 building. Now, the ground snow load, the 25, this is from, you might want to make yourself a little note. This is not the Ogden code I just showed you, obviously. This is the one from the practice problem. It happens to be in Chicago. So we could say, you might want to scribble right here, given in problem. Oops, given in problem. Everybody see where I got those numbers from? Nobody's lost. Okay, so when you do all that multiplication, you end up with 19. Okay, 19 PSF, pounds per square foot. Now, here's something that you need to pay attention to. Look on your Google Doc. Underneath the occupancy category, the 1 through 4 that we were just looking at. Let's talk about this minimum snow load thing. It says if P sub G is less than 20. Was it? It was? Our ground snow load was less than 20? P sub G was 25. You guys with me? Okay, so I'm not even going to finish reading that. That's not me. Okay, next one. If P sub G is greater than 20. Was it? Yes. Yeah, 25. So it says then my total snow load, P sub S, has to be greater than or equal to my importance factor times 20. Why? So let's keep reading. That means if you have a piece of G larger than 20, a ground snow load larger than 20, you may be able to use a smaller importance factor. Again, it's just a check to make sure minimums are being enforced. All these little checks along the way, I think these are really cool. You're going to see in a minute, we're going to round up. It's all these importance factors on top of importance factors to overbuild a building or overbuild a plane or overbuild a bridge. You know, because you never know what's going to happen. Or look at that math we were doing with rain runoff. Planning for a 100-year storm, right? That kind of stuff. Yeah?
So again, how you said that it's almost impossible that each building gets built. Is there buildings that get built with that skip codes?
Things happen, of course. The Hyatt Hotel in like the 80s is a great example. There was a big like dance competition. Hundreds of people were on this catwalk that spanned like a large room, and it collapsed. There were too many people on the catwalk, but it was a design failure with some of the supports, and it all went back to a big miscommunication with some of the engineers. That's why there's all these checks on checks on checks. That's why we're always doing stuff in teams. Another set of eyeballs, another brain.
So when a plan comes in plan, how long is it before it's planned before it gets built?
Who knows? You know what? I have an example for you. Quick side conversation. That's a good point. Last semester in this class, I have a friend who owns a nonprofit organization, and he asked us if we could design a really, really simple urban like community park in Ogden. And it's right by, it's on like 35th and 35th and Washington, right where Riverdale splits off. And I'll show you you can come look at the plans later. So we were in groups, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups came up with their plan. And then the architect came to class, and then he saw everybody's presentation, and then he went back and he tried to kind of mesh everybody's design and kind of get everybody's design into one plan. And then they came up, maybe you can come look at this later, closer up. They came up with this design. This is a render. It's a little different than Revit. It's supposed to look like a sketch, even though it wasn't. Then they had to go through the planning commission, and they had to get approval from them. They had to get all kinds of permits. They had to find out who's going to do the work, who's going to pay for it, all that kind of stuff. And this doesn't even have like a real structure on it. So this was last year, and everything's going according to plan. They're going to hopefully break ground in the spring. That's going to be almost a year later. And you brought up a great point. How long does it take? Depends on 1,000 things. And my point the other day when I told you I can't believe that buildings are ever built, my point is how they figure out all this math, all this stuff, all the design changes, all the I-beams, all the loads, what is this, what is this? Like it's crazy. It's cool, but it's just crazy that any building is ever built. And when they break ground, you notice, oh wow, that went together fast. Why did it go together so fast?
They had
all this had been done for the past 2 years of planning. You know the phrase, plan your work, work your plan? Really, like if you have all this documentation. I showed you the plans for this building. That was just to renovate this building. It was already existing. Yeah.
So now there's a house being built right next to me. They poured down the cement for the foundation almost a month ago, and they haven't done anything to it yet. So
who knows? It could be funding issues, and it could be 1,000 things. Yeah. Okay, good question though. All right, so back to here. Everybody sees how we got to 19. We had to check our minimums, and let's make sure we're writing this part right here, because you're not going to know why we all of a sudden started using 22. So, since our ground snow load is greater than 20, 25, then my rule tells me my total design load must be greater than my importance factor times 20. My importance factor times 20 is 22. We're going to take that equation, and because it didn't quite meet our minimums, and we're going to throw it in the garbage, and we're going to use our minimum rule, which says my importance factor times 20 to get 22. So make sure we write that. We wrote 22 PSF. That's why I put a little green check. That's the one we're going to use. Everybody see how I got there? I looked at my rule one more time. Ground snow load has to be greater than, if ground snow load is greater than 20, which it is, my total snow load must be greater than or equal to importance factor times 20. It's just really saying I can't use this 0.7 anymore. Okay?
Why is it 0.7?
It's just a constant. Okay, let's look at your Google Doc. Nope, sorry, your the other one, the Word document. Flip back and look at that one. Number 1, calculate snow load for our roof. Boom, done. That's over. Number 2, find roof live loading requirement. Okay, so in your notebook, let's write number 2. Find live loading by IBC. So we know we have a live roof. And go ahead and write this down. I'm just giving this to you. IBC of 2009 says our live roof loading is 20 PSF, right here in red. Okay, now that we know that, let's read through 3. Estimate the dead load of the roofing system by estimating the weight of all the roof components. Note that typically the ceiling and MEP will be supported by the roof framing and not the roof deck, but conservatively include these loads for your roof calculations. How could we're basically adding up all the roofing materials. How do we do that? Where do we get that information from?
On that chart that you
Yeah, let's open up that chart. So this isn't something engineers pull out of the air. It's something they have access to. So first thing on my list, first thing that I mentioned in the problem was a built-up roof. So in your notebook, let's write built-up roof. And who can find that first on the chart? Yeah. The built-up roof, 6.5 PSF. Next thing on our list is 5 inches of rigid insulation. What's that? Yeah, how'd you get 3.75?
Do you by chance have super glue?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I can find them.
And you guys can keep going down the list.
It's like scary quiet in here.
Yeah, well, we're doing math. It's rare.
Is our class ever this quiet?
On days we did math, yeah. You know what? I don't know if I go. I don't think I do.
I'll go see if Nelson has any.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, how do we get 3.75? I don't see 3.75 on the chart. Right? 5 inches of it. Right, so 5 times 0.75 is 3.75. Show that in your notebook. Look back at this. How on earth did I get that? Okay, steel roof tip. How much does... What's that, Brian? Rigid insulation. Next one is steel roof deck. How much does steel roof deck weigh? 3 PSF, good. Then we have a 5/8 inch suspended ceiling. Suspended ceiling is what you're looking at. It's called a suspended ceiling or a drop ceiling. How much does it weigh?
Is it the mineral?
Yes. 24. Now, it told us in the problem, the MEP, meaning all the mechanical stuff. You know, and if you look out this window over at Two Rivers, that's what they mean. There's all this stuff on top of a low slope roof. All this mechanical stuff, it's where all the heating and air conditioning live. That has to be calculated. So they said that was 10 PSF.
What was it?
10.
I know what was the name?
MEP. Capital M, capital E, capital P. Mechanical electrical plumbing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Add them up. $24.65. What do you think we should do? Hmm. Why don't we just use 25, right? Again, it's like the third time we've done that. So, go ahead and write use 25 PSF. That's what we're going to use. Okay, so look up here, make sure you have the same thing in your notebook. This was per our materials table. Built up roof 6.5, 5 inches of insulation at 0.75 an inch. Steel roof deck, 5/8 ceiling. MEP, 24.65, we're going to use 25. Fair enough? This stuff, is it going to move? No. So from your homework last night, what type of load are we going to call it? Dead load. It ain't going anywhere, right? Snow is a live load. A green roof with people moving on it. That's a live load, right? Okay. Next part, number 4. Let's write determine total design load. Determine total design load. We are just about done. Of part 1.
So when it's dead load or dead roof or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
are they calculating it because there's not going to be any people on it? Because let's say something needs to be repaired up there.
Or what if there's an equipment upgrade and then it weighs like 10 PSF more?
That's a great question. It's the exact reason why we talked about, like, oh, I want a jacuzzi in my second floor bathroom, and your house was never designed for that. If you really want to put that in, what would you have to do?
Because then
An engineer would have to come in and say, okay, you have these, 2x10 joists, 16 inches on center. They can do some math real quick, real similar to beam deflection, POE, right? It's the same type thing. Well, you know what? We can't replace all of these, but we'll take another 2x8 and we'll scab it right on top of it. Or we'll put in this big beam here to help carry the load or something. So if there's something like some major upgrade, like you said, Spencer, that was going to happen, they would have to do that exact thing. And then you said, what if people are going to go up there?
repair whatever.
Yeah, so think about, we're about to get into the actual I-beams. People, first of all, it's designed to carry the weight of 4 guys going up there to repair. So that's a drop in the bucket when you're thinking about how much weight that roof can hold. But all of those things need to be factored in. The Hyatt Hotel example, it was not factored in with the supports that they had to hold that many people. You've seen.
Attention students, seminary is canceled this afternoon. There will be no seminary class held today. So students should just go to one of their other classes for this period. Thank you.
Who's seen something like a elevator that says maximum occupancy, yada yada yada? Who's seen it in their gym at school? Maximum occupancy, but your gym is on the ground level. Why do they do that?
It's a good question.
Good idea, but no. So a gym on the ground floor has a maximum occupancy. Why? That has nothing to do with loads. On the bus too.
Is it for crowd?
Yes, there's an emergency. We all have to get out. They have to figure out, going out of all 4 of those exits in the gym, how rapidly people can get out. That has to do with egress. But the reason you see it in an elevator or something like that has to do with loads. Has to do with loads. Okay, here we go. Now, as per IBC, right here, as per IBC, we're going to add dead load plus our live load plus roof load or snow load or rain load. Notice or.
So we're gonna do this 3 times.
No? Or. Dead load of all the equipment, right?
Okay.
Live load, or one of these three.
Oh wait, you want to know all?
Not necessarily. So look what I wrote here. I'd like you to write this too. Do we use roof live load, which they gave us, or do we use our snow load and why?
Doesn't depend on the building and the location.
Kind of. So look back in that first equation. What was our snow load that we ended up coming up with? 22. Okay. And what did I tell you that the code said was our live roof load? Yeah. So my point is, no, not that 25. We're going to use the snow load because it's higher, because that makes more sense. If we look back, did I not tell you this part? Yeah, I did. Number 2, find the roof live loading required by IBC. That was 20 PSF, right? So that was 20. But our snow load, if you look back in the first equation we did, our snow load was 22. Okay? We're going to use a higher number. That just makes sense.
So you calculate for more than what is needed.
Yep, more than what's needed. That part making sense? Really close to being done. Here we go. So we decided we're going to use 22. Now add our dead load plus our snow load. 25 plus 22 is 47 PSF. Our roof has to support 47 pounds per square foot. All that stuff that's on our roof, people maybe walking up there, snow in the worst snowstorm, that's what it has to support. Okay? Anything I can answer?
Usually they make it stronger than what you add up, don't they?
Like, would they round that up to 50 or say like?
Watch. Yep, you guys are on the right track. Now, let me define roof deck. Look at that first picture, or the first page of your handout. And actually, yes, the first picture. That's a roof / floor decking. Boy, if you have a chance to drive right past Weber State, there's a building that's in this phase of construction right now, and it's perfect to see. And I'll look on Google Earth in a minute. I don't think it'll be that current. Anyway, I'll show you some more pictures in a minute. So, first picture, that is what goes on a low-slope roof. It's also what goes on each floor of a multi-story building. Whoa. It's only Monday, Spencer. Let's not curse.
But it's only a day of the week.
That's right. So it's really close to Friday. So we can cut loose a little bit. Yeah. All right.
It's only so
So back to, do you understand what I mean by roof deck?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, next thing. Open up your load span table. So go back to Canvas. Yep, load span table. Looks like this. Okay, couple things we need to know. In your, let me find mine. in your load span table, in the problem, in the scenario, it said we want to use a double span. Okay? So we're now on number, let's go ahead and write down number, we're still on 5. Let's write something like, look at load span table. We're still on number 5. Let's write, look at load span table. And we can say something like, given in problem, use double span. Given in problem, use double span.
How do you decide what we do each day? Like, I know you have like a teacher's plan or lesson plan, but how do you decide specifically?
More than a decade of teaching, I know exactly how things go.
I've been teaching for a decade.
See the color of his hair?
Right?
News from all of you.
Okay, go back to your Google Doc.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Back to your Google
Kate
Doc.
said it, not me.
Okay, find, I believe this is going to be on the 3rd page of the Google Doc. You find where it says 1, 2, and 3 span condition. You guys see that? Okay, so read with me. 1 span condition. A roof steel deck that has 2 supports and was designed as a simple supported beam. 2 span condition. A roof steel deck that has 3 supports, 2 end supports and an intermediate, and was designed as a continuous beam with 2 equal spans. So my point is I'm showing you what that means. Okay, so it said we need a double span. Now, on that Google Doc, scroll back up to the very top and look at that 3rd picture. What is the span between each beam? 7 feet. You see that on the right? Span between each beam is 7 feet. Now go back to the table. Go back to the roof deck table.
This one?
Yep. So everybody see double?
Yeah.
Now go across with your eyeballs and find what's our span again? 7 on double. Which one are we going to use? Which one?
62.
Okay. Everybody find 7 feet. Everybody see 7-foot span?
Yes.
Now make sure you're on the double, the 2nd row.
48.
Yeah. 40 is too small. 62 is kind of overkill. Let's use 48. And what was our number? Our original number?
47.
47. Perfect.
I'd round up to 50.
Okay? So now, in your notebook, step 5, now take with your eyeballs, go from 48 and go all the way over to the left. What type of double deck is that? A type 20. So go ahead and write choose type 20 roof deck. Choose type 20 roof deck. Guys, see how this is all coming together? That's how they make all these decisions. Okay, next. If you look up here, we looked at our load span table, 7-foot double span. That's how we got to a type 20. All right, last thing. Step 6, determine roof beam loading. 6, determine roof beam loading. Okay. Real quickly, open up the PowerPoint.
stuff open.
I know, it's a big unit. We're only doing a fraction of it today.
How big's the fraction?
Okay, everybody find slide 18. Looks like this. This is a great explanation of how these loads move through a building. So just like the picture on 18, they're having a dance party on the 3rd floor, right? Notice if I'm standing dead in the center of the floor, which they kind of are, where is that half transferring that load? Which way is it going?
Out.
Yeah, you see how it's going out? That's my big point. So while you're there, and you should have viewed this the other night, go down to, that's a good slide, 25. First of all, do you see what you're looking at? You are looking at the top of this building, which is currently just I-beams, girders, columns, which are I-beams, and the 2, 3, 4, 5, and the ABC. That's so you can quickly find things, right? Like 2B or 5C, you can quickly find things. So if you look at about 3B, you'll see in the middle of the page. See how they're highlighting that that beam? The red slash marks, that's what we call our tributary width. Notice it's half of one side and half of the other. So the tributary width is 6'8". 3 feet 4 on one side, right? 3 feet 4 on the other side. That's all that means. Is that locked in your brain? Does that make sense? Because just like that picture, you bounce back to slide 18 if you want to look at that again. Back to the dance party. He's dancing in the middle of that beam. So half of the load goes one way, and the guy on the other side of him, his load is going to the other side. It's being distributed to the other side. Okay, so we have to know that tributary width. Okay, so now, last thing.
I like my break.
Okay, we're going to find the load for an interior beam. So if you look back at this picture, we'll get rid of that PowerPoint now. Look back at this picture, your printout or on the Google Doc, that bottom one. We want to find an interior beam. We know that the span between them is 7. So what's half of 7?
3.5.
What's 3.5 plus 3.5?
7.
7. Okay, so we need to calculate a beam with a tributary width of 7. Everybody see where I got that magic 7 from? It's not the 7 that's on the page. It just happens to be half of one side and half to the other. I mean, I know it's the same, but there's some situations where it can be different. So if you look up at the board, we went interior beam, tributary width is 7 feet. 7 times 47 is 309 pounds per foot. Okay? So now you need to open up, last table we're going to open, your loads table. This one? No, not that one. Looks like this. Has some pink numbers. Yep, there we go. Give everybody a second. built-in load table?
It's two stories. School doesn't get out until 20 minutes later, and then we all miss the bus.
Okay. Last step. Look at our picture again. If we were finding an interior beam between columns 8 and 9, we're finding an interior beam between columns 8 and 9. What is the span between 8 and 9? 16. Everybody see where I'm getting at? Now, look at your table. Notice the first column, span. Scroll down to 16. We're going to ignore all those pink numbers. Okay, that has to do with live loading. We're just looking at the black numbers for now. And what's our magic number that we're shooting for? What's the last number we just calculated?
329.
329. So let's go across.
So it would have to be between 10 and 12.
Or so go for 12.
What about, look at the very top row. Those are the names of the beams, that's what you call them. So an 8K1, a 10K1.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. So why can't we do an 8K1? Too little. Okay, what about a 10K1? Still too low. But that's too big.
But it's
A
okay.
little bigger, which is good, and isn't it the closest one on the chart? That's it. So now you just chose, if you look back at the first page with the pictures, the one that says floor plan framing, you just chose one of those beams. That's how they do this.
So if you choose one, isn't both of them all going to be that same beam?
Great question. That's where we're going to start.
Yeah.
You're on the right track. Okay, does that make sense before we wrap up? So back up for a second. Everybody look at your notebook. What did we do first? What was the first thing we did? Calculated our snow load. Then we had that check, and then we realized that we had to mess with the snow load a little bit. What was the next thing we did? How did we figure out our dead load? What did we do? Yeah, it gave us some specifics. We found the table. We added up all that stuff. What was the next thing we did? Yeah, we used that for design load. What was the next thing we did? And we did our total design load, our dead plus our live load, or in our case, the larger one. And then we looked at our table for our roof deck, found our tributary width, figured out our PSF for our beam, and then we chose a beam. Okay? Now, I'll start passing the tape around in a minute. Now you can decide where you want to put all those pages. I would not stack them on top of each other like this. Okay? If you do, maybe stagger them so you make sure you see that there's 2 pages. Okay? Yep. I want all those taped in. Okay? All right. We can take a quick break, put scissors away, throw away scraps, and then we can get back to commercial. Ready, Rick?
Break. 5 teachers.